Murphy said nothing, because he knew something had changed. Raven had allowed a stranger to touch him. But that was not the only strange thing. Raven was looking at Lily the same way he used to look at Murphy, with trust, with loyalty, with protection. Murphy had spent years building walls around himself. He trusted no one, not his employees, not his allies, not even his own family. But a 3-year-old girl had walked into his world and broken something he thought could never break: his silence. Later that night, Murphy stood outside Lily's room. He watched through the half-open door. The little girl was sleeping. Raven was lying beside her bed. The dangerous dog, who once attacked anyone near him, was quietly guarding a child. Murphy's assistant, Daniel Cross, stood beside him. "Boss." Murphy did not answer. Daniel looked inside. "I have never seen Raven like this." Neither had Murphy. After a long silence, Daniel lowered his voice. "There is something strange about that woman." Murphy finally looked at him. "Allie Carter?" "Yes." Daniel handed him a file. "We checked her background." Murphy opened it. The file was almost empty. Too empty. A person's entire life could not disappear like that. Someone had erased it. Find out who she really is. Daniel nodded. "And the girl?" Murphy looked through the door again. At Lily. At Raven. At the first peaceful moment inside his mansion in years. "Find out everything." A pause. "But don't scare them." Daniel was surprised, because Murphy Moretti had never protected strangers. Not once. But tonight, something had changed. And nobody knew that the little girl who washed his dog's wound would eventually uncover the biggest secret of the Moretti family. The next morning, the entire Moretti mansion was talking about Lily Carter. Not because she was the daughter of a maid, not because she was only 3 years old, but because she had done something nobody else could do. She had touched Raven. The news spread through every corner of the mansion. "The dog actually stayed still? I saw it with my own eyes. She even cleaned his wound." "That's impossible," the servants whispered while preparing breakfast. For years, Raven had been the reason new employees were warned before entering the property. Everyone received the same instruction: do not approach the dog, do not stare at the dog, do not touch the dog. But yesterday, a little girl ignored every rule, and Raven allowed it. At the dining table, Murphy Moretti sat silently. The room was usually filled with fear when he was present. Nobody spoke unless he asked. Nobody made unnecessary movements. But today, something felt different, because beside Murphy's chair was Raven, and beside Raven was Lily. The little girl was feeding him pieces of bread. "Raven likes this." Murphy looked down. "He doesn't eat food from strangers." Lily frowned. "I'm not a stranger." The answer caught him off guard. Murphy raised his eyes. "What are you, then?" Lily thought for a moment. Then she smiled. "His friend." The entire room became quiet. The servants lowered their heads to hide their reactions. Nobody dared say it, but everyone thought the same thing. The little girl was the first person who treated Raven like a normal dog. And somehow, Raven accepted it. Murphy looked at Allie. She was standing near the wall, waiting to serve breakfast. Unlike other employees, she did not try to get his attention. She did not act nervous. She only watched Lily, a mother protecting her child. That was the first thing Murphy noticed. The second thing was something else. Allie Carter was hiding something. He had learned to read people years ago. Everyone who entered his world wanted something: money, power, protection, information. Nobody approached him without a reason. But Ali was different. She seemed more afraid of being discovered than interested in gaining anything. "Your daughter is unusual," Murphy finally spoke. Ali looked up. "She's just a child." "No." Murphy glanced at Raven. "She is not." Ali's expression changed slightly, only for a second. But Murphy saw it. Fear. Not because of him, because of his words. "You think she's special?" Murphy asked. Ali quickly looked away. "She's just kind." Murphy leaned back. "Kindness doesn't make a dangerous animal forget years of fear." Ali did not answer. That silence told him more than words. Later that afternoon, Murphy watched from his office window. Below, Lily was sitting in the garden. Raven was lying beside her. The dog was sleeping. Murphy had not seen Raven sleep peacefully near anyone except him. His assistant, Daniel Cross, entered the room. "Boss?" Murphy turned. "What did you find?" Daniel placed several documents on the desk. "Ali Carter's records are incomplete." Murphy opened the folder. "Everyone has records." "Not everyone." Daniel paused. "Someone removed hers." Murphy's eyes became colder. "Who?" "We don't know yet." Murphy turned another page. The information was strange. Ali Carter, 26 years old. Single mother. Worked multiple jobs. No criminal record. No family information. No previous employment history before 3 years ago. Too clean. Too perfect. It looked fake. "Find the missing years." Daniel nodded. "There is something else." "What?" Daniel hesitated. "Before working here, Ali applied to several wealthy families." Murphy looked up. "And she was rejected every time." "Why?" Daniel looked at the report. "Because every family received the same anonymous warning." Murphy's expression darkened. "What warning?" Daniel handed him the final page. One sentence was written there: "Stay away from Ali Carter." Murphy stared at the words. Someone was watching her. Someone powerful enough to interfere with her life. Someone who knew she would eventually enter the Moretti mansion. The question was why. That night, Murphy found Ali alone in the kitchen. She was washing dishes. The mansion was quiet. You knew Raven was hurt. Ali stopped. Slowly, she turned around. "I didn't." "You noticed immediately." Ali looked down. "My daughter notices things adults ignore." Murphy studied her. "That's not an answer." Ali dried her hands. "Mr. Moretti, if you think I came here with a plan, you're wrong." "I didn't say that." "But you think it." Her voice was calm, not defensive. That surprised him. Most people became nervous when questioned by him. Ali didn't. She looked tired, like someone who had spent years running away. "Why did you come here?" Murphy asked. "For work." "That's not the truth." Ali looked at him. For a moment, Murphy thought she would lie, but she didn't. "I needed money." "That's all?" "Yes." He stared at her. "You expect me to believe that?" Ali gave a small smile. "No." That answer surprised him. "You don't?" "No." She looked toward the window. "People like you never believe people like me." Murphy frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you already decided who I am before knowing me." Her words were simple, but they hit harder than expected. Because Murphy realized something. She was right. He had already judged her. A maid. A single mother. A woman with a hidden past. He had created a story about her before hearing the truth. That was something he always accused others of doing to him. The next morning, something happened that changed everything. Raven disappeared. The entire mansion went into panic. Guards searched every room. The gates were checked. The cameras were reviewed. But there was no sign of him. Until Lily walked into the garden. She looked around. Then she pointed toward the old greenhouse. Raven is there. Everyone froze. A guard immediately shook his head. Impossible. Nobody went near the abandoned greenhouse. It had been locked for years. Murphy walked over. The door was open. Inside, Raven was lying on the floor. Beside him was a small box. Lily walked toward it. Murphy stopped her. Wait. He entered first. The box was old, covered in dust. Something inside caught his attention. A photograph. Murphy picked it up. The moment he saw it, his face changed. Because the person in the photo was someone he thought was dead. Someone connected to the betrayal 5 years ago. And standing beside that person was a little girl. A little girl who looked exactly like Lily. Murphy Moretti thought Lily was only a maid's daughter. But the photograph inside Raven's hidden room suggested something impossible. The little girl who changed his dog might have been connected to the secret that destroyed his family. Nobody in the Moretti mansion could explain what happened to Raven. The dog that once terrified everyone had become a completely different animal. Every morning, Raven waited outside Lily's room. Every afternoon, he followed her through the garden. Every night, he slept beside her door. The guards watched in disbelief. "This is impossible," one of them whispered. Raven never followed anyone except the boss. The other guard looked at the little girl playing with flowers. Maybe he chose her. Nobody knew how to respond, because that was exactly what happened. Raven had chosen Lily. And everyone noticed another strange change. Murphy Moretti had changed too. Before Lily arrived, breakfast at the mansion was always silent. Murphy sat alone. He read reports. He answered phone calls. He left within minutes. The dining room was not a place for conversation. It was a place where everyone remembered who was in control. But now, things were different. "Mr. Murphy." Lily sat across from him. "Why do you always look angry?" The entire table went quiet. The servants stopped moving. Nobody had ever asked Murphy that question. Not even his closest men. Murphy looked at the little girl. "I don't." Lily looked at him seriously. "Yes, you do." A few servants almost smiled. Almost. Because nobody had ever argued with Murphy Moretti. Except a 3-year-old child. "Why do you think I'm angry?" Murphy asked. Lily picked up her spoon. "Because your eyes are tired." The answer surprised him. For a moment, Murphy said nothing. Because she was right. Everyone saw him as powerful. Everyone saw him as dangerous. Nobody noticed that he was tired. Not physically, emotionally. He had spent years carrying responsibilities that nobody else could understand. Enemies, betrayals, losses. He built his entire life around surviving, not living. "Eat your breakfast," Murphy finally said. Lily smiled. "You didn't say no." "What?" "You didn't say I was wrong." The corner of Murphy's mouth moved slightly. It was not a smile. Not yet. But it was close. And everyone in the room saw it. The impossible happened. The most feared man in the city almost smiled. Later that morning, Lily found Murphy in his office. She walked in without knocking. The guards outside immediately panicked. Nobody entered Murphy's office without permission. Nobody. Except Lily. She carried a drawing in her hands. "Mr. Murphy." Murphy looked up from his documents. "What is it?" "My family." She placed the paper on his desk. Murphy looked down. The drawing was simple. A house, a woman, a little girl, a large black dog, and a tall man standing beside them. Murphy stared at it. "Who is this?" Lily pointed. "Raven." Then she pointed at the tall figure. "You." Murphy looked at her. "Me?" "Yes." "Why am I here?" Lily smiled. "Because Raven likes you." Murphy looked away. "That's not a reason." Lily thought for a moment. "Because you are lonely." The room became silent. Murphy's fingers stopped moving. A child's words should not have affected him. But they did. Because nobody had ever said that. Nobody had ever looked beyond the title. Beyond the money. Beyond the power. Nobody had ever seen the lonely man behind Murphy Moretti. Except a 3-year-old girl. That evening, Allie found Lily sitting in the garden with Raven. She smiled softly. For the first time since arriving at the mansion, she felt her daughter was safe. But that feeling disappeared when she entered her room. A folder was placed on her bed. She froze. She knew immediately. Someone had searched her room. She opened the folder. Inside were copies of documents. Her old addresses. Her previous jobs. Her medical records. Everything. Someone was investigating her. And she knew exactly who. Murphy Moretti. Allie closed the folder. Her hands trembled. She had expected this day to come. But she hoped she would have more time. A voice came from behind her. "You knew I would investigate." Allie turned. Murphy stood at the door. His expression was calm. Too calm. "You searched my room." It was not a question. Murphy walked inside. "You lied about your past." Allie looked at him. "I never lied." "You never told the truth either." Silence. The two stared at each other. Murphy was used to people fearing him. But Allie did not look afraid. She looked disappointed. That surprised him. "You think I'm dangerous?" Murphy said. "No," Allie answered. "You're worse." His eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "You are someone who thinks he can control everything." Murphy stared at her. "You came here hiding something." "Yes." The answer was immediate. That surprised him. Allie continued. "But not what you think." "Then tell me." She looked away. "I can't." Murphy stepped closer. "Why?" "Because if you know the truth." Her voice became softer. "You won't protect Lily anymore." For the first time, Murphy's expression changed. A cold feeling entered his chest. "Who is after her?" Allie remained silent. And that silence was the answer. Someone was. At the same time, hundreds of miles away, inside a dark room, a man placed a photograph on a table. The photograph showed Lily. Next to her was Raven. The man smiled. So finally appeared. The person standing beside him asked, "Are you sure?" The man touched the picture. "Her eyes are the same. After all these years." He looked out the window. "The Moretti family secret has returned." The next day, Murphy received an unexpected message. One sentence. One warning. "Give us the girl, or everyone around her will disappear." Murphy read the message 3 times. And he destroyed the phone. Because whoever sent it had had one mistake. They threatened the one person Murphy had started caring about. And Murphy Moretti did not forgive threats. Especially not against his family. Murphy thought Lily was changing his life. But he soon discovered something more dangerous. Someone else had been waiting for Lily to appear. And they were willing to start a war to take her away. Murphy Moretti had faced hundreds of threats in his life. People had pointed guns at him. People had betrayed him. People had tried to destroy everything he built. But none of those things made him feel the way that message did. because this time the target was not his empire. It was Lily, the little girl who walked into his mansion with nothing except a small bag and a gentle smile. The little girl who made Raven trust again. The little girl who somehow saw the person behind the monster everyone feared. Murphy stood in his office, staring at the broken phone pieces on the table. Daniel Cross waited silently. He knew his boss well. When Murphy became quiet, it was usually more dangerous than when he became angry. "Find the sender." Murphy's voice was cold. Daniel nodded. "We already started." "And?" "We traced the message through 3 different servers." Daniel paused. "Whoever sent it knew how to hide." Murphy looked toward the window. The garden was visible from there. Lily was sitting on the grass. Raven was lying beside her. The image was peaceful. Too peaceful. Murphy hated that feeling, because peace was always temporary. Double the security. Daniel looked surprised. "For Lily?" Murphy turned. "For everyone in this house?" Daniel understood. The girl had become important, not just to him, to the entire mansion. That afternoon, Murphy made a decision that shocked everyone. He canceled all outside meetings. He canceled 2 business negotiations. And he spent 3 hours in the garden with Lily. The servants secretly watched from inside. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. Murphy Moretti was sitting on the ground. A man who controlled millions of dollars was holding a small piece of paper. "Is this supposed to be a dog?" Murphy asked. Lily looked at the drawing. "Yes." He stared at the strange lines. "Why does Raven have 6 legs?" "Because he runs very fast." Murphy looked at her. "That doesn't explain 6 legs." Lily smiled. "Maybe he needs more legs to protect me." For some reason, Murphy had no answer. Raven placed his head on Lily's lap. Murphy watched quietly. "You know," Lily said, "Raven likes you too." Murphy raised an eyebrow. "How do you know?" "Because he follows you." "He follows me because I feed him." Lily shook her head. "No." She pointed at Raven. "He follows you because he thinks you are sad." Murphy looked away. Again, a child saw something everyone else ignored. "Your dog talks too much." Lily laughed. And something strange happened. Murphy smiled. A real smile. Only for a second, but it happened. And nobody inside the mansion missed it. The servants froze. The guards looked away quickly, because they had witnessed something they thought they would never see. Murphy Moretti looked happy. That night, Allie sat beside Lily's bed. The little girl was sleeping. Raven was lying near the door. Allie touched Lily's hair. She hated that she was starting to feel comfortable, because comfort was dangerous. Every time she trusted someone before, she lost something. Her home, her family, her future. She looked at Murphy's mansion, a place she originally entered only for money. But now it was becoming something else. A place where Lily laughed. A place where Lily felt safe. A place where Murphy looked less like a monster. And that scared her more than anything, because she knew the truth. The moment Murphy discovered who Lily really was, everything would change. The next morning, Murphy entered the dining room. Lily was already there. She was sitting beside Raven. "Good morning, Mr. Murphy." Murphy nodded. "Good morning." Everyone stopped, because Murphy Moretti had never greeted anyone first. Not once. Lily smiled. "Today we should teach Raven a trick." Murphy sat down. "He doesn't need tricks." "Yes, he does." "Why?" Because he is old. The entire room became silent. One servant almost dropped a plate. Nobody called Raven old. Nobody called Murphy's dog anything. Murphy looked at Raven, then looked at Lily. How old do you think he is? Lily counted at her fingers. Very old. How old? Maybe 100? Murphy stared. Raven looked away. For the first time, everyone saw something unbelievable. Murphy Moretti was having a normal conversation. Not as a boss. Not as a leader. Just as a man. But the peaceful morning ended quickly. A gunshot came from outside the mansion. The sound shattered the entire house. Guards immediately moved. Protect the boss. Rents to the head. But before anyone watched Lily, Raven moved. The dog jumped in front of her. A second later, the bullet left the window behind him. Glass exploded. Lily screamed. Murphy grabbed her immediately. Are you hurt? She shook her head. But Murphy's eyes had changed. The cold expression returned. Only now there was something else. Rage. Someone had attacked his home. Someone had tried to hurt Lily. The guards searched the area. Nothing. The attacker disappeared. But they found something. A small envelope placed outside the gate. Murphy opened it. Inside was a photograph. The same photograph he found in Raven's hidden room. But this time, there was writing on the back. One sentence. You are protecting the daughter of the man you killed. Murphy's hand stopped. The world around him became silent. Because suddenly, every piece of the puzzle changed. Lily was not just connected to his past. She was connected to his biggest mistake. That night, Murphy went to Allie's room. She was waiting, because she knew he had found something. You know now. It was not a question. Murphy looked at her. Who is Lily's father? Allie's eyes filled with fear. You need to understand. No. His voice was quiet. Tell me the truth. A long silence passed. Then Allie whispered. His name was Adrian Vale. Murphy froze. Adrian Vale. The name he had buried 5 years ago. His former best friend. His brother. In everything except blood. The man accused of betraying him. The man who supposedly died that night. Murphy looked at Lily's sleeping room. No. Allie lowered her head. Yes. She is his daughter. The truth finally appeared. And for the first time in years, Murphy Moretti did not know what to do. Because the enemy he hated most had left him, the person he now wanted to protect most. Murphy thought Lily entered his life by accident. But the truth was much more dangerous. She was the last connection to the man who destroyed his past. And the first reason Murphy wanted a future. Murphy Moretti did not sleep that night. For 5 years, he believed he knew the truth. Adrian Vale betrayed him. Adrian sold information to their enemies. Adrian caused the attack that almost destroyed the Moretti family. And Adrian died because of it. That was the story everyone told. That was the story Murphy accepted. But now, a 3-year-old girl was standing in front of him, as proof that everything might have been a lie. Lily, Adrian's daughter. Murphy sat alone in his office. The city lights reflected on the window. Normally, this view reminded him of everything he had built. Tonight, it only reminded him of everything he might have misunderstood. Daniel entered quietly. Boss. Murphy did not turn around. Tell me everything about Adrian Vale. Daniel hesitated. We already investigated him years ago. I know. Murphy's voice was cold. But investigate again. Daniel understood immediately. Something had changed. When do you want the report? Before sunrise. Daniel nodded and left. Murphy looked at the old photograph on his desk. Adrian was standing beside him. They looked younger, different. before the betrayal, before the blood, before everything fell apart. Murphy remembered the last conversation they had. Adrian had looked at him and said, "Someday, you'll understand why I did this." At the time, Murphy thought those were the words of a guilty man. Now, he wondered if they were the words of someone trying to warn him. The next morning, Allie found Murphy waiting outside. She stopped immediately. "You know." It was not a question. Murphy looked at her. "Yes." The silence between them became heavy. "Lily is Adrian's daughter." Allie closed her eyes. She had known this moment would come. "Are you going to take her?" Murphy frowned. "Is that what you think of me?" Allie looked at him. "I don't know what to think." Her voice was quiet. 5 years ago, everyone said Adrian betrayed you. Murphy said nothing. "But I know he didn't." That sentence changed the atmosphere. Therefore, he stepped closer. "You knew him?" "Yes." "How?" Allie looked away. Because the truth she had hidden for years was finally impossible to hide. "I was Adrian's assistant." Murphy's expression changed. "Assistant?" "Yes." "Then why did you become a maid?" Allie was silent. "Because the answer was painful. Because after Adrian died, everyone who knew him became a target." Murphy stared at her. "Allie." Her eyes became red. "Adrian found out someone inside your organization was planning to destroy both of you." Murphy's face changed. "He never betrayed you." "Then why didn't he tell me?" "Because he didn't trust the people around you." The answer hit him. Because deep down, Murphy knew. 5 years ago, there were too many unanswered questions. Too many convenient explanations. Too many people who benefited from Adrian's death. "Why didn't you come to me?" Allie looked at him. "Because I tried." Murphy froze. "What?" "The night Adrian died, I went to find you." She swallowed. "But someone found me first." A cold feeling entered Murphy's chest. "Who?" "I don't know." "That's impossible." "No." Allie shook her head. "That's exactly why I survived." Murphy studied her. "What happened?" "They told me, if I contacted you, Lily would disappear." The words were quiet, but they carried years of fear. "So you ran?" "Yes." "For 5 years?" "Yes." "And you came here?" Allie looked toward the garden, toward Lily. "Because I had nowhere else to go." Murphy did not answer. Because for the first time, he realized something. Allie had not been hiding from him. She had been protecting Lily from someone else. That afternoon, Daniel returned. The report was different from expected. "Boss." Murphy looked up. "What did you find?" Daniel placed the documents down. "The official report says Adrian betrayed us." "And the truth?" Daniel hesitated. "The evidence was manipulated." Silence. Murphy slowly looked at him. "Explain." "The financial records were fake. The communication logs were edited. And the weapon found at the scene." Daniel paused.
"Was not Adrian's." Murphy's hand tightened. 5 years. 5 years believing the wrong person. 5 years carrying hatred toward a dead man. Who changed the evidence? Daniel looked serious. "We found one name connected to all of it." Murphy waited. "Victor Kane." The name made Murphy's expression darken. Victor Kane. A former member of the Moretti organization. Someone who disappeared after Adrian's death. Someone nobody had found for 5 years. "Where is he?" "We don't know." Murphy stood. "Find him." Daniel nodded. Then he hesitated. "Boss." "What?" "There's something else." Murphy looked at him. "Adrian left something behind." "What?" Daniel placed another file on the desk. "A hidden account." Murphy opened it. Inside was a message. Only one sentence. "If Murphy ever finds Lily, tell him the truth was never about the money." Murphy stared at the words. "Not about money. Then what was it about?" "That night, Lily found Murphy sitting alone in the garden. She walked toward him. "Are you sad?" Murphy looked at her. "Why do you always ask that?" "Because your eyes look tired again." He almost smiled. "Almost." Lily sat beside him. "Mommy says people can be hurt inside." Murphy looked at her. "Your mother says that." "Yes." "What else does she say?" Lily thought. "She says good people can make mistakes." Murphy became silent. Because that was exactly what he had been thinking. Maybe Adrian was not a traitor. Maybe Murphy had made the biggest mistake of his life. Lily touched Raven's head. "Raven misses his old friend." Murphy looked at her. "What friend?" She pointed at him. "Adrian." Murphy froze. "How do you know that name?" Lily looked confused. "Raven told me." Murphy stared. "Dogs don't talk." Lily smiled. "He talks with his eyes." For some reason, Murphy believed her. Later that night, someone entered the abandoned part of the city. A man stood in the darkness. Victor Kane. He looked at the photograph of Lily. She finally came back. A person beside him asked, "What should we do?" Victor smiled. "Nothing." He folded the photograph. "Let Murphy protect her." The person looked confused. "Why?" Victor looked toward the city. "Because the closer he gets to the girl, the easier it will be to destroy him." Murphy spent 5 years hunting the man he believed betrayed him. But now, he discovered the truth. The real enemy was never Adrian. It was the person who made Murphy hate him. And that person had been waiting for Lily to return. Murphy Moretti had spent his entire life preparing for enemies. He knew how to protect his business. He knew how to defend his territory. He knew how to survive betrayal. But he had never prepared for one thing: a little girl becoming his weakness. For the past 3 days, security around the Moretti mansion had doubled. Every entrance was monitored. Every employee was checked. Every vehicle entering the property was searched. Nobody complained. Because everyone understood one thing: Lily Carter was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was someone Murphy Moretti wanted to protect. And that alone made her dangerous. "Boss." Daniel entered the office. "We found movement near the north side." Murphy looked up. "Who?" "Unknown." "Unknown is not an answer." Daniel placed a tablet on the desk. "The person used old roots. Roots that only people inside our organization knew." Murphy's expression became cold. Someone had access to information. Someone from his past. Someone connected to Adrian. "Increase patrols." Daniel nodded. "There is another problem." "What?" "The person who sent the warning." Daniel paused. "They know Lily's location." The room became silent. Murphy slowly stood. "Then they know too much." Meanwhile, Lily was sitting in the garden. Raven was beside her. She was brushing his fur. "You're getting dirty again." Raven looked at her. "You need a bath." The dog moved away. Lily laughed. "You don't like baths?" Raven turned his head. Murphy, who was walking nearby, stopped. For some reason, seeing Raven act like a normal dog felt strange. Before Lily arrived, Raven was a weapon. A protector. A reminder of violence. Now he was arguing with a 3-year-old girl about taking a bath. "Raven doesn't like losing," Murphy said. Lily looked at him. "Dogs don't lose. What do they do?" "They learn." Murphy looked at her. "You think so?" "Yes." She touched Raven's head. "Everyone can change." Those words stayed in Murphy's mind. Everyone can change. Maybe even him. That evening, Allie found Murphy outside. "You are protecting her because of Adrian?" Murphy looked at her. "No." The answer was immediate. Allie seemed surprised. "Then why?" Murphy was silent. Because he did not have an easy answer. At first he protected Lily because of Adrian, because of guilt, because of the truth he needed to uncover. But now, things were different. Because she needs someone. Allie looked at him. And you think that someone is you? Murphy looked toward the garden. Lily was laughing with Raven. Yes. Allie lowered her eyes.
For the first time, she believed him. That night, the attack began. At 2:13 a.m., the power inside the mansion suddenly disappeared. Every light went dark. The security system stopped. The guards immediately reacted. Blackout. Check the cameras. No signal. Murphy woke up instantly. He knew this was not an accident. Someone had entered his territory. He grabbed his weapon. Find Lily. The guards moved. But before they reached the child's room, a sound came from the hallway. A growl. Deep. Angry. Raven. Murphy ran. When he reached the corridor, he saw something that made his blood freeze. A stranger was standing near Lily's room, and Raven was between them. The attacker held a knife. Raven's body was tense, but he did not attack. He waited, because he was protecting Lily. Raven. Murphy's voice was low. The dog looked back. For a second. Then forward again. The attacker smiled. So this is the famous dog? Nobody moved. You know what's interesting? The man stepped back. He used to attack everyone. His eyes moved toward Lily. But he protects her. Murphy's expression changed. The attacker knew too much. Who sent you? The man smiled. Ask the girl's mother. Before anyone could catch him, he activated a small device. Smoke filled the hallway. The guards coughed. When the smoke disappeared, the attacker was gone. Murphy immediately checked Lily. She was safe. Because Raven had stayed there the entire time. The dog had a small cut on his side. Lily saw it. Her eyes filled with tears. Raven is hurt. Murphy looked at the wound, then at the dog. A strange feeling appeared in his chest. 5 years ago, Raven saved him. Tonight, Raven saved Lily. The same loyalty, the same courage. Different person to protect. Murphy knelt down. Something he had not done in years. He touched Raven's head. You did good. The dog looked at him, then slowly rested his head against Murphy's hand. Lily smiled. He knows you love him. Murphy froze. Love. That word was unfamiliar. He had built his entire life without needing it. But now, a child and a dog were teaching him something he had forgotten. The next morning, the investigation began. Daniel entered with new information. Boss. Murphy looked up. Talk. The attacker was not trying to kill Lily. Murphy frowned. What? He had the chance. Daniel placed photos on the table. He was close enough, but he didn't attack. Murphy stared. Then what did he want? Daniel answered. To test something. What? Daniel looked serious. He wanted to know if Raven would protect her. Silence. Murphy understood. The attack was not the main event. It was a message. Someone wanted confirmation. Confirmation that Lily had changed Raven. Confirmation that Murphy cared about her. Confirmation that Lily was now his weakness. That afternoon, Murphy found Allie. You knew this would happen. Allie looked at him. Her face became pale. I was afraid. Who are they? She remained silent. Allie. His voice became colder. Someone is trying to take my family. The word surprised both of them. Family. Murphy had said it without thinking. Allie noticed. So did he. After a long pause, she whispered, "They not after Lily because of Adrian." Murphy stared. "Then why?" Allie looked at him. "Because Lily has something Adrian left behind." "What?" "A key." Murphy frowned. "A key to what?" Allie shook her head. "I don't know." "Then why are they afraid of a key?" Her eyes became serious. "Because that key can destroy everything." That night, Murphy stood beside Lily's bed. Raven was sleeping nearby. He looked at the little girl, then at the dog. Two lives connected by a secret he still did not understand. His phone rang. Unknown number. Murphy answered. A voice came from the other side. "You finally understand." Murphy's eyes turned cold. "Who are you?" A laugh. "Someone who knows what Adrian left behind." The voice paused. "And someone who knows Lily is not the only secret in that house." The call ended. Murphy stared at the phone. Because for the first time, he realized the enemy was not outside his mansion. They were already inside. Raven saved Lily. But the attack revealed bigger truth. The enemy did not want to kill the girl. They wanted Murphy to love her. Because once Murphy Moretti cared about someone, he became easier to destroy. Murphy Moretti had spent 5 years believing Adrian Vale was his enemy. Now, he was beginning to understand something worse. Adrian had never been his enemy. He'd been protecting him. And Murphy might have been the person who destroyed everything. The key was small. Almost too ordinary. A simple silver key with no mark. No name. No symbol. Nothing that explained why so many people were willing to kill for it. Murphy placed it on the table. Daniel stood across from him. "You're sure Adrian left this?" "Yes." "And Allie knew about it?" Murphy looked at him. "She knew something." Daniel nodded. "That means she was involved." Murphy's expression changed. "No."
Daniel was surprised. Usually, Murphy trusted evidence, not feelings. But this time was different. "Boss?" Murphy looked at the key. She was protecting Lily. Daniel stayed silent. Because he noticed something. Murphy was no longer talking about Lily as a responsibility. He was talking about her like family. The investigation lasted 12 hours. Every database, every hidden record, every old connection Adrian had. Nothing. The key remained a mystery. Until Daniel found something. "Boss," Murphy looked up. "What?" "We checked old Moretti family records. And there was a missing document." "What document?" Daniel placed a copy on the table. "A family inheritance agreement." Murphy frowned. "My family has hundreds of documents. This one is different." Daniel pointed at the bottom. "Because Adrian was the last person who signed it." Murphy froze. Adrian. Not his father. Not his uncle. Not any member of the Moretti family. Adrian. Why would Adrian sign a Moretti inheritance document? Daniel looked serious. "Because, according to this," he paused, "Adrian was not just your friend." Murphy stared. "Then what was he?" Daniel answered quietly. "He was chosen as the guardian of the Moretti family's secret." Murphy said nothing. The words felt impossible. Adrian, the man everyone believed betrayed him, was actually protecting the family. But why? Why hide it? Why not tell him? Then Murphy remembered something. 5 years ago, the night everything happened, Adrian had tried to reach him, but Murphy refused to answer. Because he already believed the betrayal. He believed the evidence. He believed the people around him. He never gave Adrian a chance to explain. For the first time in 5 years, regret appeared.
Meanwhile, Allie sat beside Lily. The little girl was drawing. Another picture. This time, there were 4 people. Murphy, Allie, Lily, and Raven. Allie smiled. You like Mr. Murphy? Lily nodded. He is nice. Allie looked surprised. Nice? Yes. He looks scary. Lily thought for a moment. Only outside. The answer made Allie emotional. Because Lily saw what adults ignored. Murphy was not a monster. He was a wounded person, pretending not to hurt. Mommy? Yes? Is Mr. Murphy my daddy? Allie froze. The question she feared finally came. She looked at Lily. She wanted to lie. She wanted to protect her. But she knew children remembered more than adults expected. No. Lily looked down. But he protects me. Allie touched her face. Yes. Then he is my family. Those words hurt more than any accusation. Because Allie knew. Lily had spent her entire life without a father. And now, the first person who made her feel safe was the man who once hated her father. That evening, Murphy went to speak with Allie. This time, he did not question her like an investigator. He asked like someone who wanted the truth. What was Adrian protecting? Allie looked at him. You finally believe him. Murphy stayed silent. That was enough answer. Allie sat down. Adrian discovered something inside the organization. What? A hidden operation? Murphy frowned. Whose operation? Someone using the Moretti name. The answer shocked him. Someone inside my family. Allie nodded. Someone who wanted control. Murphy clenched his fist. Who? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? Yes. Allie looked at him. Because Adrian never trusted anyone after he discovered it. Except you? She looked away. Except me. Murphy noticed something. Pain. Not fear. Pain. What happened between you and Adrian? Allie was quiet. Then she answered. He saved my life. Murphy listened. Years ago, my family was destroyed because of that organization. She looked at Lily. Adrian helped me escape. And then? And then he found out someone was hunting him. Murphy's voice became softer. Me. Allie looked at him. No. A pause. Not you. Then who? Allie whispered. The person who made you believe you were the enemy. That night, Murphy opened the old family records himself. He searched through everything. Finally, he found something. A hidden page. A message written by Adrian. Only one sentence. Murphy, if you are reading this, it means I failed to protect you. His hand stopped. Another line followed. The person beside you is the one you should fear most. Murphy stared. Beside you. Not outside. Not an enemy. Someone close. Someone inside. Then he noticed something else. A signature. Adrian's signature. And underneath it, another name. A name Murphy knew very well. The next morning, a meeting was held inside the mansion. Was someone from the Moretti family? The room exploded. Everyone started talking. Murphy raised his hand. Silence returned. Who? Daniel looked directly at one person and said the name. Lucien Moretti. Murphy froze. Because Lucien was not an enemy, not a stranger. He was his uncle, the man who raised him after his parents died, the man he trusted more than anyone, the man who taught him how to survive. That night, Murphy stood outside Lily's room. Raven was beside him. The dog looked at him quietly. Murphy whispered, Everyone I trusted betrayed me. Raven moved closer. Murphy looked down. Except 2, a child and a dog. Murphy finally discovered the truth behind Adrian's death. The real traitor was someone inside his own family. But the biggest shock was still waiting, because the person who raised Murphy was the same person who destroyed everything he loved. Murphy Moretti had spent his entire life learning how to become stronger. His father taught him one rule: never trust anyone. His enemies taught him another: never show weakness. And Murphy followed those rules perfectly, until Lily Carter entered his life. A 3-year-old girl changed everything he believed. She did not fear his name. She did not care about his power. She did not see the Mafia boss. She only saw Murphy. And that terrified him, because for the first time in years, he had something to lose. The next morning, Murphy stood in front of the family portrait. The Moretti family. Generations of power. Generations of secrets. And somewhere inside that picture was a man who destroyed everything. Lucien Moretti. His uncle. His teacher. His second father. The man who taught him how to survive. Murphy stared at the portrait. Why? The question left his mouth quietly. Why did the person closest to him betray him? Why did he allow Adrian to die? Why did he let Murphy spend 5 years carrying hatred toward an innocent man? The answer was simple. Power. Lucien wanted control. And Murphy was the only obstacle. Boss. Daniel entered. Murphy turned. What happened? We found another message. Daniel handed him a file. Murphy opened it. Inside was a photograph. Lily walking in the garden, taken from outside the mansion. His expression immediately changed. When? Yesterday. Murphy's eyes became cold. Someone had been watching her. Watching his home. Watching his family find where it came from. Daniel nodded. And Lucien? Murphy looked at him. Don't touch him yet. Daniel was surprised. Why? Because I want him to believe he still has control. Murphy closed the file. I want him to make the next mistake. But Lucien was already planning his next move. Inside a private office downtown, Lucien Moretti sat beside the window. A glass of wine rested in his hand. He changed. The man standing beside him nodded. Because of the girl. Lucien smiled. Yes. He looked at Lily's photograph. Murphy spent his whole life becoming a weapon. A pause. And now he found something he wants to protect. The man asked, Should we take her? Lucien shook his head. No. Why? Because taking her would make him angry. Lucien smiled. But making him choose, that will break him. Inside the Moretti mansion, Murphy was experiencing something he had never prepared for. Parenthood. And it was harder than any business negotiation. Mr. Murphy? Lily stood in front of him. Why do you drink coffee? Murphy licked at his cup. Because I need it. Why? To stay awake. Lily thought for a moment. Do you sleep? Murphy was silent. Sometimes. Lily frowned. That means you are tired. Murphy almost laughed. Almost. You always say that. Because it's true. She walked closer. You need a bedtime. Murphy stared at her. A bedtime? Yes. I'm an adult. Adults need sleep too. Murphy looked at Allie. She was standing nearby, trying not to smile. For years, nobody had ordered Murphy Moretti to do anything. Not even his closest allies. But a 3-year-old girl was telling him to sleep. And somehow, he listened. That night, Murphy sat beside Lily's bed. She had fallen asleep while drawing. The paper was still in her hands. He carefully removed it. Another picture. This time, it was different. There was no mansion, no guards, no weapons. Only 4 people. Allie, Lily, Murphy, and Raven. Murphy stared at the drawing. Family. The word felt unfamiliar. He had never had a normal family. His childhood was filled with fear. His adult life was filled with violence. He knew how to win wars. He knew how to control people. But he did not know how to be someone's father. A small hand suddenly grabbed his finger. Murphy looked down. Lily was half awake. "Don't leave." 2 words. Simple. But they stopped him. Because nobody had ever asked him to stay. People asked for money, protection. Nobody asked for him. "I'm here," Murphy said quietly. Lily smiled. Then she fell asleep again. Murphy remained there. For hours. "You can do my private influence. I am a controvator. I saw this old. I feel this heavy in the taste."
The next morning, something happened that shocked everyone. Murphy Moretti made breakfast. The entire kitchen became silent. The chef stared. The servants stared. Even Allie looked surprised. "You cooked?" Murphy looked at her. "It's breakfast." "Yes." A pause. "But you cooked?" Murphy looked uncomfortable. "I can learn." Allie looked at him, and for the first time, she saw something different. Not the Mafia boss. Not the powerful man. Just someone trying. You don't have to become someone else. Murphy looked at her. "What? Lily doesn't need a perfect person?" Allie smiled slightly. "She just needs someone who stays." Those words affected him more than she knew, because staying was the one thing Murphy never learned. Everyone he loved left, or betrayed him. But now, he wanted to stay. That afternoon, danger arrived. A package was delivered to the mansion. No sender. No address. Inside was a small toy. A wooden rabbit. Lily loved rabbits. She immediately reached for it. "Wait." Murphy stopped her. Something felt wrong. Daniel checked it. Then his face changed. "Boss." "What?" "There's a camera inside." Murphy's expression became dark. Someone had sent a message. Not a threat. A reminder. They could reach Lily anytime. The screen activated. Lucian appeared. Older, calm, smiling. "Hello, Murphy." The room became silent. Murphy stared at him. "Lucian." His uncle smiled. "You finally found the truth." Murphy's voice was cold. "You killed Adrian." "No." Lucian shook his head. "I simply allowed you to make the wrong choice." Murphy clenched his fist. "You destroyed my family." Lucian smiled. "No." He looked at Lily. "I gave you a reason to destroy yourself." Murphy's eyes turned dangerous. "Touch her, and you die." Lucian laughed. "There it is." "What?" "The weakness I was waiting for." The screen went black. That night, Murphy made a decision. He moved Lily's room next to his. He increased protection. He canceled every unnecessary operation. His empire could wait. For the first time in his life, Murphy Moretti chose someone over power. But he did not know one thing. Lucian was not trying to take Lily. He was trying to force Murphy to reveal where Adrian's final secret was hidden. And Lily was the only person who knew the answer. Murphy thought becoming a father would make him weaker, but he was wrong. Lily did not make him weak. She gave him something worth fighting for. And Lucian was about to discover the most dangerous version of Murphy Moretti was not the man with nothing to lose. It was the man who finally had something to protect. Murphy Moretti had spent years searching for enemies outside. He never imagined the biggest danger would be standing inside his own home. The Moretti mansion was supposed to be impossible to break into. Every door had security. Every person had been checked.
Every movement was recorded, but someone still managed to send information to Lucian. Someone inside. The investigation started immediately. Daniel placed 7 documents in front of Murphy. 3 files were leaked. Murphy looked down. What files? Adrian's documents, security plans, and Lily's schedule. The room became cold. Someone knew everything. Murphy looked at the last page. There was one name, Allie Carter. Silence. Daniel watched his reaction carefully. Because he knew this was different. Usually, if someone betrayed Murphy, he reacted instantly. But this time he hesitated. Explain. Daniel took a breath. She had access. To what? Adrian's information. Because she was helping him. Daniel nodded. I know. Murphy looked at him. Then why are you telling me this? Because someone wants it to look like her. Murphy's gaze narrowed. You're not convinced. You knew. Daniel pointed at the documents. But the evidence says otherwise. Murphy found Allie in the garden. She immediately noticed something was wrong. What happened? Murphy looked at her. Someone leaked information. Allie became serious. What information? Everything about Lily. Her face changed. For a moment. Only a moment. But Murphy said it. Fear. Not guilt. Fear. Did you know? Allie looked away. Murphy's voice became quieter. Allie. She closed her eyes. Yes. The answer surprised him. You knew? I knew someone was searching for her. Who? I don't know. Then why didn't you tell me? Allie looked at him. Because I was afraid. Of me? No. Her voice softened. Of losing Lily. Murphy stared at her. You think it would hurt him? No. A pause. I think everyone around Lily gets hurt. Those words stopped him. Because she was right. Adrian died. Her family disappeared. Now Murphy himself had become a target. But before Murphy could say anything, the alarm sounded. Everyone rushed inside. Daniel was standing near the security room. Boss. Murphy looked over. What happened? Daniel pointed at the screen. A hidden camera had recorded someone entering the restricted area. The person was wearing a maid. But the height, the body shape, everyone recognized it. It looked like Allie. Murphy stared at the screen. His heart sank. Because he wanted to believe her. But the evidence was becoming harder to ignore. That night, Murphy confronted her again. This time, with the entire team present. Allie. She looked at him. What? I need the truth. Her expression changed. What truth? Were you in the security room? Silence. Everyone watched her. Allie slowly shook her head. No. Daniel placed the footage on the table. Then explain this. Allie looked at the screen. Her face became pale. I wasn't there. Murphy stared. Then who was it? She had no answer. For the first time, Murphy saw uncertainty in her eyes, and that scared him. Because he realized something. Someone was trying to destroy her. Lucian watched the scene through a hidden camera. He smiled. Perfect. The person beside him asked, She will be removed. Lucian shook his head. No. Why? Because Murphy trusts her. A pause. And trust is much more painful to destroy than love. Inside the mansion, Lily noticed something strange. She found Raven sitting beside the stairs. The dog was staring at the floor. Raven? The dog moved slightly. Lily looked down. A small piece of fabric was caught under the stairs. She picked it up. It was black, like the clothes from the person in the video. But there was something else. A smell. Raven immediately reacted. Lily looked at him. You know this person? Raven lowered his head, then walked toward Murphy's office. Lily followed. Murphy was alone. The room was dark. He looked exhausted. Lily walked in. Mr. Murphy. He looked up. What happened? Lily held out the piece of fabric. Raven found this. Murphy took it. Then he froze, because he recognized the material. It was not from Allie's clothes. It belonged to the Moretti security team. What? Lily looked confused. Is it important? Murphy stared at the fabric, then suddenly understood. The person in the video was not wearing a mask. They were wearing a security uniform. Someone had changed their appearance. Someone wanted everyone to blame Allie. Murphy immediately called Daniel. Check every security, Mindy. Daniel answered quickly. Boss. Someone inside betrayed us. A pause. Who? Murphy looked at Lily, then at Raven. The person who knows our security system. 2 hours later, the truth appeared. Daniel entered the office. His expression was serious. We found him. Murphy stayed. Who? Daniel placed a file down. A security officer. Someone who had worked in the mansion for 4 years. Someone Murphy trusted. Ethan Cole. Murphy frowned. Impossible. Daniel nodded. That's what he wanted everyone to believe. He was working for Lucian. Silence. Murphy looked at the file, then at Allie. I was wrong. Allie looked at him. For the first time, she saw regret in his eyes. Not anger, not pride, regret. Later that night, Murphy found Allie outside. I owe you an apology. Allie looked at him. You thought I betrayed you. Yes. Did you believe I could? Murphy is silent, then answered honestly. No. That answer surprised her. Then why? Because I was afraid. Allie looked at him. Murphy continued. Everyone I trusted betrayed me. A pause. But I didn't want you to be another one. For the first time, Allie saw the fear behind Murphy's strength. Meanwhile, Ethan was taken away. But before disappearing, he left one message. For Murphy. Lucian never wanted Lily. He wanted the person who knows where Adrian hid the final truth. Murphy read the message, then looked toward Lily's room. His expression changed, because he finally understood. The enemy had been searching for the secret. But the secret was not hidden in a place. It was hidden in a person. The betrayal inside the mansion was exposed. Allie was innocent. But the truth was more dangerous. Because Lucian was never chasing Lisa. He was chasing the one person who knew Adrian's final secret. And that person was Lily herself. Murphy Moretti finally understood. The enemy was never chasing money. Never chasing power. Never chasing revenge. They were chasing a secret. The secret Adrian Vale died protecting. And the key to that secret was not hidden in a safe. Not buried underground. Not locked inside a document. It was inside a little girl. Lily Carter. Murphy stood outside Lily's room. He watched her sleep. 3 years old. Small. Innocent. Completely unaware that powerful people were fighting because of her. For years, Murphy believed the world was simple. There were winners. There were losers. There were people who survived. And people who disappeared. But Lily changed that. She reminded him there were things more important than winning. Things worth protecting. Daniel entered quietly. Boss. Murphy turned. What did you find? Daniel placed a folder on the table. We found Adrian's final file. Murphy immediately opened it. Inside was a video. The date was 5 years ago. The night Adrian died, Murphy pressed play. The screen showed Adrian, older, tired, but calm. For a moment, Murphy forgot to breathe, because he had not seen his friend's face for 5 years. Adrian looked directly at the camera. Murphy, that single word almost broke him. I know you probably hate me now. Murphy livid his eyes. Adrian continued. But if you are watching this, it means I failed. A pause. I failed to protect you. Murphy clenched his hand. Adrian looked serious. Lucien knows about the family secret. The room became silent. He wants to control everything. He wants the Moretti name, but he cannot get it without the final proof. Adrian looked down. And that proof is connected to my daughter. Murphy froze. Lily. Adrian continued. Murphy, if Lily reaches you, please protect her. The video stopped. Nobody spoke. The silence felt heavy. Murphy looked at the black screen. 5 years ago, Adrian trusted him. Even when Murphy hated him. Even when Murphy wanted him dead. Adrian still believed Murphy would protect his daughter. The guilt was unbearable. He knew, Daniel whispered. He knew you would find her. Murphy closed his eyes. He knew me better than I knew myself. Later that day, Murphy sat with Allie. For the first time, he asked instead of demanded. What exactly did Adrian leave with Lily? Allie looked at him. I don't know everything, but you know something. She nodded. When Lily was born, Adrian gave me something. What? A necklace. Murphy frowned. A necklace? Yes. He told me never to open it unless Lily was in danger. Where is it? Allie looked toward Lily. She has always worn it. Murphy froze. He looked at Lily. The small necklace around her neck. Something everyone saw. Something nobody noticed. Lily was playing with Raven in the garden. Murphy walked toward her. Lily. She looked up. Yes? Can I see your necklace? She touched it. This? Yes. Daddy gave it to me. Murphy froze. The word. Daddy. He had never heard Lily say it before. You remember him? Lily nodded. Only a little. What do you remember? She thought carefully. He told me. She touched the necklace. Never give this to bad people. Murphy felt something tighten in his chest. Did he tell you anything else? Lily looked at him. He said. A pause. He said Mr. Murphy would keep me safe. Murphy looked away. Because those words hurt and healed him at the same time. That night, they opened the necklace. Inside was a tiny memory chip. Daniel connected it. A document appeared. Not financial records. Not account information. Something else. A list. Names. Hundreds of names. Politicians. Business owners. Police officers. People who had secretly worked with Lucien. Murphy stared. This is the real organization behind everything. Daniel answered. Adrian had discovered a network controlling powerful people, and Lucien was only one part of it. But there was something else. At the bottom of the document, a final note. The person who exposes this will become the next target. Murphy understood. Adrian did not hide the secret because he wanted power. He hid it because whoever revealed it would have to fight the entire world. Then suddenly, The mansion alarm sounded. Everyone moved. Daniel checked the cameras. His face changed. Boss. What? Lily is gone. The room froze. Murphy turned. What did you say? The garden camera stopped 3 minutes ago. Murphy ran. For the first time in his life, he was not afraid of death. He was afraid of losing someone. Outside the mansion, a car disappeared into the darkness. Inside, Lily sat quietly. She was not crying, because someone told her not to. A man sat across from her. Lucian. He smiled. You look just like your father. Lily stared at him. You are bad. Lucian laughed. Your father said the same thing. She looked at him. Did you hurt him? For the first time, Lucian's smile disappeared, then returned. Yes. Lily lowered her eyes. I don't like you. Lucian laughed again. You are very brave. He leaned closer. But courage won't save Murphy. Back at the mansion, Murphy watched the security footage. His face was expressionless. Too calm. Daniel knew this was dangerous. Boss. Murphy stood. Find her. We will. No. Murphy looked at him. I will. Daniel froze. Because he understood. Murphy was not going after Lucian as a mafia boss. He was going as a father. Lucian sent a message. Only one sentence. Bring me Adrian's evidence, or you will never see Lily again. Everyone waited for Murphy's decision. The old Murphy would choose power. The old Murphy would choose revenge. I will. I will. Daniel froze. Because he understood. Murphy was not going after Lucian as a mafia boss. He was going as a father. Lucian sent a message. Only one sentence. Bring me Adrian's evidence, or you will never see Lily again. Everyone waited for Murphy's decision. The old Murphy would choose power. The old Murphy would choose revenge. But everyone was wrong. Murphy looked at the evidence, then burned the copy. Daniel was shocked. Boss. Murphy watched the paper turn into ashes. Lucian finally got what he wanted. Lily was in his hands. The evidence was within reach. But he made one mistake. He thought Murphy Moretti was still the same man from 5 years ago. He forgot one thing. A man with nothing to lose is dangerous, but a father protecting his child is unstoppable. Murphy Moretti had spent his entire life building an empire, a name, a reputation, a kingdom that made people afraid. But tonight, he was willing to destroy all of it for one little girl. The old Murphy Moretti would have gathered his men. He would have prepared weapons. He would have surrounded the enemy. He would have turned the entire city upside down. But the old Murphy was gone, because Lily taught him something power never could. Sometimes winning was not about destroying your enemy. Sometimes winning was about protecting what mattered. Boss. Daniel stood beside him. We found Lucian's location. Murphy looked at the map. Only him. Yes. No guards? Daniel shook his head. That's impossible. Murphy knew. Lucien was too careful. A man like him never left himself unprotected. This is a trap. Daniel nodded. Yes. A pause. But you are still going. Murphy looked at him. Yes. Why? Murphy answered without hesitation. Because Lily is there. Daniel looked at him quietly. The man standing in front of him was different. 5 years ago, Murphy would have chosen revenge. Tonight, he chose a child. Before leaving, Murphy entered the main hall. Every important member of the Moretti organization was there. Everyone waited, because they knew something serious was about to happen. Murphy looked at them. For years, I built this organization. Silence. I thought power was everything. Nobody moved. But I was wrong. He placed a document on the table. Daniel looked surprised. What is that? Murphy answered. My resignation. The room exploded. Boss, you can't, after everything? Murphy raised his hand. Everyone stopped. The Moretti name was built on fear. He looked around, and fear destroyed everything I cared about. Nobody spoke. From today, a pause. This empire is no longer my life. Daniel stared. Because he understood. Murphy Moretti was burning the thing he spent decades creating. Not because he lost. Because he finally found something more important. The abandoned warehouse stood outside the city. The place was empty. Too empty. Murphy walked inside. Alone. No weapons. No guards. No backup. Only himself. At the center of the warehouse was Lily. She was sitting on a chair, but she was not crying. When she saw him, her eyes immediately brightened. Mr. Murphy. Murphy stopped, because hearing his name from her mouth almost broke his control. I'm here. Lucien stepped out from the darkness. Slowly, calmly. You really came alone. Murphy looked at him. You have my daughter. Lucien smiled. Your daughter. The words were meant to hurt. But Murphy did not react. Yes. Lucien laughed. 5 years ago, you would never say that. No. Murphy looked at Lily. 5 years ago, I was wrong. Lucien walked closer. You know what the funniest thing is? Murphy stayed silent. You hated Adrian for betraying you. A pause. But the truth is, Lucien smiled. He died protecting you. Murphy's eyes changed. Explain. Lucien looked amused. Adrian discovered my plan. He discovered the secret network. He knew I was using the Moretti family. Murphy stared. Then why didn't he tell me? Lucien laughed. Because he knew we were surrounded by my people. The words hit harder than expected. Everyone around you was watching you. Your advisors, your guards, your closest allies. Murphy clenched his fist. And Adrian? Lucien looked away. He chose to become the villain. Silence. He knew if he told you the truth, they would kill you. So he let you hate him. Murphy felt something break inside. 5 years. 5 years of anger. 5 years of hatred. All because Adrian sacrificed himself. Lucien continued. But Adrian made one mistake. Murphy looked at him. What? He trusted you too much. A pause. He believed you would eventually find Lily. Murphy looked at the girl. And I did. Yes. Lucien smiled. That is why you are dangerous now. Suddenly, the lights turned on. Screens appeared around the warehouse. Thousands of files. Names. Records. Evidence. Everything Adrian collected. Murphy looked shocked. This is everything? Lucien nodded. The truth. Then why show me? Lucien smiled. Because I want you to understand. This world cannot be destroyed. Murphy stared. You are afraid. Lucien laughed. No. He stepped closer. I am realistic. The people behind this system are bigger than you. Bigger than me. Bigger than the Moretti family. For the first time, Lucien looked nervous. Murphy noticed. You're not in control. The smile disappeared. What? You never were. Murphy looked at the screens. You are just another person they use. Lucien's expression changed. Because Murphy was right. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed. Everyone froze. A man appeared on the screen. Unknown face. Unknown identity. But his voice was calm. Lucien. Lucien looked up. The fear in his eyes was real. You failed, the man continued. You were supposed to control Murphy, not wake him up. Murphy watched and understood. Lucien was never the final enemy. He was only a piece. The man looked at Murphy. Murphy Moretti, you have become interesting. Murphy stared at the screen. Who are you? The man smiled. The person who has been watching you since Adrian died. The screen disappeared. Everything went dark. Lucien looked defeated. Murphy looked at him. You knew. Lucien lowered his head. Yes. You knew there was someone above you. Yes. Why didn't you stop? Lucien laughed bitterly. Because once you enter this world, there is no way out. Murphy walked toward Lily. He removed the rope from her hands. She immediately hugged him. For a moment, Murphy forgot everything. The enemy, the empire, the past. Only this moment mattered. I knew you would come, Lily whispered. Murphy closed his eyes. I promised. Outside the warehouse, the city lights remained bright. But Murphy knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Because now, he was fighting something bigger than a family conflict. Something bigger than revenge. He was fighting the people who destroyed Adrian. The people who tried to control Lily. The people who thought everyone had a press. But they made one mistake. They underestimated a man who no longer cared about power. Murphy saved Lily. He exposed Lucien. He discovered Adrian's final truth. But the biggest enemy was still hidden. And now the entire world knew one thing. Murphy Moretti was no longer protecting an empire. He was protecting his family. And that made him more dangerous than ever. For most of his life, Murphy Moretti believed one thing. A person survived by becoming stronger than everyone else. So he became stronger, colder, more ruthless. He built an empire that made people afraid to challenge him. But standing in that warehouse, holding Lily in his arms, Murphy finally understood something. The strongest person was not the one who had nothing to lose. It was the person who finally had something worth protecting. The next morning, the world changed. The files Adrian left behind were released. Not all at once. Not carelessly. Murphy knew information was dangerous. Used the wrong way, it could destroy innocent people. So he worked with Daniel. They verified every document, every name, every connection, every crime. And then, they revealed the truth. The hidden organization that controlled businesses, officials, and criminal groups for years was exposed. People who thought they were untouchable suddenly became targets of investigation. For the first time in years, the powerful became afraid. Inside the Moretti mansion, Murphy stood in the office. The same office where he once planned revenge. The same room where he believed trust was weakness. Daniel walked in. It's done. Murphy looked up. And Lucien? Daniel paused. He confessed. Murphy remained silent. Why? Daniel looked confused. Why did he confess? Murphy looked at the city outside. Because he finally understood something. Wait. Power cannot protect someone from the truth. Lucien Moretti was taken away. Before leaving, we asked to see Murphy. The meeting was short.
No guards. No weapons. Only two people. Two men connected by years of history. Lucian looked older. Tired. You won. Murphy looked at him. No. Lucian frowned. No? No, he shook his head. I lost 5 years. Silence. I lost Adrian. A pause. And I almost lost Lily. Lucian looked down. For the first time, there was no arrogance. Only regret. Do you hate me? Murphy thought for a long time. Then answered, no. Lucian looked surprised. Why? Because hatred kept me captive too long. Murphy stood. I won't spend the rest of my life being controlled by you. Those words hurt Lucian more than anger. Because Murphy was finally free. Weeks passed. The Moretti name changed. Many expected chaos. They expected revenge. They expected Murphy to rebuild the empire, bigger than before. But he did something nobody expected. He closed most of the illegal operations. He turned the remaining babies into leading companies. People called him weak. They said he had changed. They were right. He had changed. But they misunderstood why. Murphy was not weaker. He was finally stronger. One morning, Lily ran through the garden. Mr. Murphy. He turned. What happened? She held up a drawing.
I made something. Murphy took it. He looked at the paper. The picture showed 4 people. Again. But this time, something was different. There was a house. A real house. Not a mansion. Not a fortress. Just a home. Murphy looked at it. Who is this? He pointed at himself. That's you. And this. Allie. And Lily? She smiled. That's me. Murphy looked at the 4th person. Who is this? Lily hugged Raven. Raven. Murphy laughed quietly. A real laugh. The kind nobody had heard before Lily arrived. That evening, Allie stood beside Murphy on the balcony. The city lights spread below them. You're different. Murphy looked at her. Is that bad? No, she smiled. It's good. A quiet moment passed. Then Allie asked, do you regret saving us? Murphy looked confused. Why would I? Because before us. She looked toward the city. You had everything. Murphy shook his head. No. Allie looked at him. I had power. A pause. But I didn't have everything. She understood. Because she had seen it too. Murphy had a mansion. Money. Influence. But he had been alone. Until Lily. Until them. Months later, a small ceremony was held. Nothing expensive. Nothing dramatic. Only close friends. Lily stood beside Murphy, holding Raven's leash. She looked happy. Murphy looked at her. Are you ready? Lily nodded. Yes. For what? She smiled. To be a family. The answer made him emotional. Because years ago, he never believed he would hear those words. That night, Murphy sat beside Lily's bed, just like before. But everything was different. Lily was safe. Adrian's name was cleared. The enemies were gone. For the first time, there was peace. Lily opened her eyes slightly. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Are you staying? Murphy looked at her. The same question. The question that once scared him. But now, it felt like a gift. Yes. He smiled. I'm staying. Lily closed her eyes. Satisfied. Raven slept beside the door. The same dog who once belonged to a lonely man. The same dog who found a child who needed him. And the same dog who brought 2 broken people together. Years later, people still remembered Murphy Moretti. Some remembered him as a powerful mafia boss. Some remembered him as a dangerous man. But the people closest to him remembered something different. They remembered a man who changed. A man who learned how to forgive. A man who learned how to love. A man who finally chose family over power. Because sometimes, the person who saves you is not the one who fights beside you. Sometimes, it is the little hand that reaches for yours. The small voice that asks you to stay. and the child who teaches the strongest person in the world how to have a heart.